I'm Alex Michelson. This week, the issue is homelessness. LA Mayor Garcetti is here to explain why he thinks that LA is the model the country should follow and how California should respond to the seemingly nonstop fires. Plus,
I yield the balance of my time for now, but not forever.
Congresswoman Katy Hill resigns after admitting a relationship with a staffer and claiming to be a victim of revenge porn. Should she have quit? And what's next for her district? We'll discuss that and more with our panel. Johanna, Maska, Ethan Bearman, and Michael Knowles. The Issue Is starts right now. And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Alex Michelson. With us this week is the 42nd Mayor of the City of Los Angeles, the Honorable Garcetti. Welcome back to The Issue Is.
Great to be back with you. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much. This week, another week, more fires. Wow. It seems almost like whack-a-mole in terms of dealing with these fires. I know we both want to give a shout-out to our first responders.
No question. I was with them all week in the middle of the night. I saw folks who are the heroes on the line, and I know a lot of people want to be back in their homes. They wanted to be back in their homes too, but they did an incredible job this week. So let's talk, though, about one of the big issues that's come out recently is this question about power and some of these power lines that may or may not have sparked some of these fires in the past. Northern California has done a lot of wide-scale power outages. We haven't seen that quite as much here in Southern California. What do we do about these power lines that, in some cases, are starting these fires? Well, my heart goes out to Northern Californians who have to deal with this. We're very lucky in the city of Los Angeles because the Department of Water and Power, we have about 485 square miles compared with 20 or 40,000 square miles for PG&E and for Southern California Edison. So in the city, we're reasonably well protected. We don't have to do those proactive outages, and we've kept people's power on, even in Brentwood and Pacific Palisades this week during the Getty fire. That said, the state has no direct power. These decisions are completely made by the executives of these independent utilities. So I can tell the DWP folks what to do, keep power on or not, listen to their suggestions. The governor and the legislature are literally, no pun intended, powerless to do anything. And so, we, I think, have to look at some changes in state law. And we have to remember, too, just throwing the liability onto these private utilities, we're all pissed off at them in places like Northern California. But that comes back in your rates. They may see a doubling of their rates just to deal with the fire liability up there. Another, of course, big issue, sort of the biggest issue that you deal with these days is homelessness. Absolutely. Of course, a few years ago, you asked voters to pass Proposition HHH. Yes. This is $1 billion to build 10,000 affordable housing units. The controller came out with a report that said that 0 units have been built and said that the average cost per unit is something like $530,000. How is that okay? How is that acceptable? So, two things. One, we have over 1,200 units that have been built of supportive housing since that passed. But people know when you pass a new thing, to build something takes probably 2 to 2.5 years. These are permanent apartments. These aren't the shelters, which we're popping up now every 60 days or so. We're able to get a new one up, and by the end of the year, we'll have 2,000 beds worth of shelters. But the 10,000 apartments, which will actually, we think we're going to get to about 13,000 bedrooms worth of permanent housing. This is housing that comes also with support. So you can't just look at the price of an apartment. They sometimes have mental health care. They have substance abuse centers in them. They will have child care. So if you divide that whole building by 50 units, you get a price. But the units themselves are cheaper. That said, I want to reassure taxpayers, we're only subsidizing about $150,000 of that $500,000. That's market rate to build anything. It's a strong economy, so labor costs more. Our tariffs have made steel go up. So where's the rest of the money come from? That's the more important question. I'm not worried that we will meet our goals and deliver exactly what we told taxpayers we'd do over a decade. We'll probably do it 5 years early. That said, when that money runs out, we're going to need a second infusion because there's no question LA now has the model. In fact, in Washington, D.C., at a recent conference, they said, we're the model for how you deal with homelessness. We've gone from 9,000 to 21,000 people housed a year. But you and I look on the streets, to me, this is something getting worse. Yeah. Well, not only to us, I mean, the statistics point out the fact that it's getting worse. The homeless count show that we're up. So how is LA the model if the homeless count is going up? Because I had the same feeling. And I remind people the city has very little power compared to what the county, state, and federal government has for affordable housing, mental health care, hospitals. None of that's in the city. I've got cops and street cleaners, and you can't clean or arrest your way out of this solely. But the reason it's the model is because we've been able to, like I said, not only go from 9,000, but to 21,000 people a year that we are housing. The problem is we probably need even more resources. The federal government's cut by 80%. affordable housing over the last decade, and the state obliterated redevelopment, which was the money that we used.
But we look at like these fires this week, right? And you're able to put up temporary shelters in a matter of hours and have all these people come there. Why can't something like that happen for homelessness? Why isn't some of these abandoned government buildings turned into these shelters to just get the people off the streets?
It's exactly what we're doing. There's two problems. One is you have to make sure people go there. Under our Constitution, you can't force people to go, but we are very successful in building a much better model. If you just pop up a tent someplace, people maybe go for a day or two. If you say you can only spend the night there and you can't bring your partner, your pet, your property, they don't go. But what we are doing is called a bridge home. They are these facilities. We have them now in Hollywood. We have one going up in the Valley. We've got, by the end of the year, we'll have 26 of them. They're being built in as little as 60 days. And what they have is a permanent place you can go while we're getting a permanent apartment for you. That is working, and that's why it's the model. And if the federal government doesn't look at this as a national problem, especially around mental health care, we're just going to be cleaning up behind.
So you need President Trump's help on this?
Absolutely. And when he brought it up, I know a lot of Democrats wanted me just to punch him back. I said any day that the president and the commander-in-chief is talking about homelessness is a good day. Wrote him a letter, told him 5 things he could do tomorrow to help us if he really wants to clean up the streets, and I hope that he will.
And has he done any of them?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the issue of presidential politics.
Yes.
Last time you were here, you were like this close from announcing that you were going to run. So many of us thought that you were going to run for president. You decided not to run for president. You've sort of played this role where all the different candidates come here and you end up hosting all of them, kind of as an agnostic in the process, trying to advocate for LA. But when you watch those debates, there's got to be part of you that thinks, I could say this, I could do this, I could compete with these guys. Isn't there just a little part of you that feels that way?
Not really. It was the easiest decision of my life. I mean, I have the dream job in a place that I love, where my city and my family are. Imagine during the fires this week if I was in Iowa. That would rip me apart as a mayor and as an Angelino. I couldn't do both, and that was an easy decision to make.
We like to play some games here, and I like that you're always game and you take definitive positions.
Not playing the piano, though, tonight,
we're not doing that today, but we are playing a game called Either Or, because we are in sort of a grand time in LA sports, right?
Yes.
So many exciting things. So this is an Either Or between LA Sports edition, all right?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So you got to root for one team. Is it the Rams or the Chargers?
Rams. Thank you, Chargers, for the help with our summer youth programs, but Rams for sure.
Lakers or Clippers?
As I always say to Doc Rivers, a friend, I root for the Clippers every time they play, unless they're playing the Lakers. Lakers till I die.
There you go. LAFC or Galaxy?
Galaxy did an amazing job, but you know, LAFC plays in the city of LA, and this year broke every record. I was there rooting them on all year long. LAFC.
I knew you were going to say that. And you were the Falconer for one of their games.
Exactly.
Dodgers or Angels?
Come on. Do you even have to ask?
They are the LA Angels of Anaheim.
I don't mind anybody calling themselves the Angels. They could be the LA Angels, LA Yankees of New York, and I'd root them on. But the Dodgers, and we're coming back.
And finally, USC or UCLA?
My dad raised me. It's USC for football and UCLA for basketball.
Oh, that's a safe spot. And you were at UCLA this week.
He went to both, that's why.
You were at UCLA this week talking to the inventors of the internet.
First email was sent from LA to Silicon Valley in Stanford. People didn't know that. This is the pin, actually. 50 years, a guy named Len Kleinrock. I gave him the key to the city. He literally sent the first email from something that's half the size of this wall.
Wow. You know, even as a Trojan, I just gave some love to UCLA.
There you go.
All right, we're going to play one more game.
You're a big man.
It's called Personal Issues. This is where we put 30 seconds on the clock, get to know you a little bit better. Some fun questions, okay? Here we go. We start off with favorite Halloween candy.
Probably Twix.
Favorite actor or actress?
Let's see, probably George Clooney.
Favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete? These days, I gotta say, well, forever Kareem. And James Worthy's a close second.
Who's your role model?
Role model is probably either my father or a woman named Boge Gebre, who's an Ethiopian activist.
Favorite Republican?
Favorite Republican right now, alive?
Yeah.
Probably Tom Tate, the former mayor of Anaheim.
Oh, yes. You guys work closely together, and I've interviewed the two of you together a few times over the years. Well, last time that you were here, you referenced this. You played the piano for us, so we want to show some of that, which was pretty amazing. We surprised you with the piano, and you came up with this like classic song that you had just like created yourself, which was amazing. So
I played a Taste of Soul a couple weeks ago, too.
Since then, though, you've moved on to bigger and better things. We've got some video of you at the LA Philharmonic playing with Gustavo Dudamel and Moby and a choir. I mean, this is amazing. What was going through your mind for this process?
Well, Moby asked if I would play. I love his music. It was my Philharmonic debut, and my mom, I got in huge trouble. Jewish mother, she's like, you played the Philharmonic and you didn't tell me, but I had like 2 days notice. I came by to the practice a couple hours before, and then he let me play the last song with him. It was the experience of a lifetime. I've been in the audience so many times. I was nervous from the stage, but Moby was amazing.
Well, you're a maestro who's learned every lesson, but you have not learned the lesson, don't upset your Jewish mother.
I know, exactly. She's not like a stereotypical one, but I told her, next time, Mom, I'll call you ahead of time.
Yeah, well, nice job there. Thank you so much for coming. We always appreciate the time. Mayor Eric Garcetti, we go to break with more of his music. Next, our panel joins us. Stay with us. You're watching The Issue Is. Is it nerve-wracking?
From Southern California to the Bay Area, you're watching The Issue Is.
There's no question LA now has the model. In fact, in Washington, D.C., at a recent conference, they said, we're the model for how you deal with homelessness.
Just moments ago, LA Mayor Eric Garcetti claiming that LA is the model for how to deal with homelessness around the country. But is it really? Let's talk about that and more with our panel. Our returning champ is Michael Knowles, also known as Beyonce Knowles. He hosts the Michael Knowles Show on the Daily Wire. That's at 6:30 a.m. Pacific new time slot, Mondays through Thursday. Johanna Maska is the CEO of Global Situation Room, a communications consulting firm. From 2007 to 2015, she was in charge of press advance for President Barack Obama, coordinating his travel around the country and around the world. What an interesting job that must have been. Ethan Bearman is a syndicated radio talk show host. You can find his podcast and more about him at ethanbearman.com. He's also the brave liberal who is a frequent guest on the Fox News channel, going toe-to-toe with the hosts in prime time, and somehow he survives that every week. Good to see you. Welcome all. Welcome to you two for the first time on the show. Michael, as the returning champion, let's start with you. Is LA the model for how to deal with homelessness?
To say that LA is the model for dealing with homelessness is to say that Krispy Kreme is the model for dealing with obesity. It is just absurd. Over the past year alone, homelessness is up 13% in LA County. It's up 16% in LA City. There is nothing that we want to mimic about that around the country.
I think his point, Ethan, was that we are housing more people more successfully. The problem is that there's just more people that keep needing to be housed. Does he have a point, or is that sort of a strange messaging?
I mean, look, I'm originally from the Midwest, where you freeze to death if you're unhoused at night. So people come here when they're looking for housing. We have kids who run away from abusive homes that are here in Los Angeles that need our care. I know people who are very involved with helping the homeless children. They come here because they can survive, because we do have services, because we don't just lock them up and throw away the key, because we actually have compassion. So that is a major part of it. Yes, we need to be doing better. Yes, we need to bring that cost per unit of housing down, but absolutely, we are the place that's actually trying to do something about it.
Your thoughts, Joanne?
I think if LA was the model, Mayor Garcetti would be running for president. And, you know, it's not actually his fault, though. And so here's what I would say, is that I grew up in Galesburg, Illinois, and we did have quite a bit of homelessness because the mental health institution had been closed because of Reaganomics. And so this has now been continuation of our slash of our safety net for the least among us.
I mean, Garcetti says he's asking for help and the president isn't doing anything.
Sure. So what Mayor Garcetti is saying is that we just need more money and we need to get it from the federal government to house more people. The trouble is that our homeless shelters are not being used as they are. There was a survey that went out. They only have a 78% utilization rate. There was a survey of the shelters. More than half of them are not full at capacity every single night. Why is that? Because, to Joanna's point, there's a big problem with mental health in the homeless population. There's a big problem with drug addiction. That's what needs to be addressed.
We need a SWAT team of mental health professionals to go out and interact with homeless people and get them the mental health care they need in the short-term immediate care and on an ongoing basis to address the issue along with housing.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Up next, Katy Hill resigns from Congress. Should she have? And what's next for that district? More of The Issue Is right after this.
I'm leaving because of a misogynistic culture that gleefully consumed my naked pictures.
Katy Hill resigns her seat in Congress, saying she's a victim of revenge porn. She admits to having an improper relationship with a member of her campaign staff. A right-wing website released naked photos of that relationship and apparently was threatening to release potentially hundreds more. Hill was a rising star and one of our most frequent guests here on The Issue Is. Let's talk about all of this with our panel, Michael Knowles, Johanna Maska, and Ethan Bearman. Johanna, let's start with you. Should she have resigned?
Only Katy Hill knows what would have come out in this ethics investigation. I had to fill out an SF-86 when I went into the White House, and that's the background information. You have to list anything you've done that's blackmailable. And the reason why is because if you're blackmailable, you're not the best representative of America. And so she knows what would have come out in this investigation. Honestly, the fact that she had brought someone into what she's now saying is an abusive relationship, a third party, that shows a stunning lack of judgment, in my opinion. I think she clearly has some personal issues that she needs to deal with.
Look, here's the problem that we run into. There really is a double standard when it comes to women versus men. Naked pictures of a woman is much more titillating, apparently, to many on the right. In particular, there's a misogyny that is applied here. So there is a double standard both on the political side and on the gender side.
But Ethan, to push back on that a little bit, if there was a naked photo of a male politician with a 22-year-old campaign staffer brushing her hair, or a naked picture with a bong, don't you think that the media would cover that too?
No, because we have a sitting president who has upwards of 43 accusations of sexual assault, abuse, rape that has happened, and it just gets brushed aside. And we now have videographic evidence with Jeffrey Epstein of him sexually abusing a woman right there on camera.
But he's dead now. I mean, but what about like
Epstein
Anthony Weiner? That sort of brought him down, didn't it?
It did, and again, another Democrat. So Democrats get held fully to the standard. Republicans, it's maybe.
And the real issue is judgment. What sort of public servant would allow themselves to have all of these photos taken? This is absolutely bizarre behavior, an egregious ethical violation, and an egregious lack of judgment from this congressman. And of course, she should resign.
But isn't it also revenge porn? And isn't that also wrong?
Also, it was funny. I was looking up the different photos that had come out, naked photos of Congress people, just to have some perspective. And it's interesting that the women tend to have pictures taken of them, and the men tend to take their own picture and send it out, which is super disturbing on like every level.
This was a seat that was Republican for many years. Katy Hill was able to flip it. Where do you see this race going?
I'm sorry to say, I think that the days of that Republican seat are over. I think that, unfortunately, the whole state is trending blue, and even with this egregious sex scandal, drug scandal, judgment scandal, I think the Democrats probably hold it.
Although maybe if people listen to the Michael Knowles
That's
show,
what I keep telling people.
Go the other direction, right? All right. Well, we have a new podcast we want to tell you about. We're sitting down with Johanna, has lots of fascinating stories of coordinating all the press travel for almost the entire Obama administration. It's unique insight on how the presidency actually works. You can download all of our past shows in podcast form. Just search for The Issue Is wherever you stream. Coming up next, will President Trump be rescued by Republicans in the Senate? Does he need to be? We're talking impeachment and a little Halloween too when we come back.
On this vote, the yeas are 232, the nays are 196.
This week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi presided over a formal vote of the House establishing an impeachment inquiry into the president. It's looking increasingly like the president will be impeached in the House, but is there any chance Republicans in the Senate can be convinced to turn on him? Back with our panel, Michael Knowles, Johanna Maska, and Ethan Bearman. Ethan, let's start with you.
It's just a question of, will they operate on principle or do they serve their party first? It really is that easy.
I don't think, though, that the Senate is going to vote. I don't think they're going to impeach the president. And so then we are in a situation where it may very well energize his base. And I think Democrats need to tread very carefully here.
No, they're not going to do it. This is an impeachment in search of a crime. They've tried to do it since before he took office. First it was Russia, then it was Stormy Daniels, then it was the taxes, now it's Ukraine. I think it's going to be a loser issue for Democrats, especially as more about the whistleblower and his relationship to Joe Biden comes out. And I think, as Representative Democrat Al Green said, Democrats believe that if they don't impeach him, they will lose in 2020, and that's why they're pushing for it.
All right. Well, one thing that brings the country together, not the impeachment issue, but Halloween. That's something a lot of fun this week. Showcase. And Ethan, I know you went out with your kids, right?
Absolutely. Trick-or-treating is the best thing in the world. And that picture right there is my son Levi is just the best big brother, and he's helping my daughter Shiloh put on her makeup for her Chucky costume.
That is awesome.
So we went as Nightmare Before Christmas this year. My son really wants Tim Burton to do a sequel. So he was Jack Skellington, and I got to be Sally.
Awesome. And Michael, you didn't go as anything this year, but we got a throwback picture for you.
You know, before this is a scandal, I want it pointed out, I did not go full Trudeau. I just like Biggie Smalls, and I wore the Coogee sweater.
But Bill Cosby liked those sweaters.
Yeah. Thank you for finding a way to make that political. We want to get producer Greg in this as well. Look at him and his gorgeous daughter. Gavin Newsom was a part of the Halloween fun as presidential candidates, all of them different Democratic presidential candidates. And I was working, so I accidentally went as Mayor Pete. How about that? Nice. Hope you all have a happy Halloween with your family. Hope it was a lot of fun. Thanks for watching The Issue Is. We'll see you next week. And here's where you get to dance. That's the best part of coming on this show. Let's see it. Let's see your move.
Chair dancing.
Oh, dear. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.